8 luckiest people who survived the impossible.
The plane with Vesna on board exploded at an altitude of 10,000 meters. 27 people on board lost their lives. Vesna...
Okay, if my plane exploded 30,000 feet into the air, no part of me is assuming that I'm going to survive that. I didn't even know you could survive that. I've always said the second I know a plane is, like, dive bombing towards the ground, I'm just accepting the fact that I'm dead. I don't want to die, obviously, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, there's a chance if I tuck my head in between my knees, like they say in the pamphlet. The pamphlet. We're dive bombing towards the ground at the speed of the acceleration of gravity, and I am hauling in a metal cylinder towards Earth. We're dead. I'm not going, well, maybe he'll land it in the Hudson Bay. No.
Vesna was trapped by debris while falling, counting the last seconds of her life. In this video, I'll tell you about 8 accidents where the victims managed to trick death itself.
As always, viewer discretion is advised.
The French Alps, late April 2022. The professional skiing team Les Pautos headed to Mage Mountain, but they didn't choose well-equipped slopes. They opted for the extreme terrain near the La Grave resort. The total vertical drop there is up to 2,300 meters.
Oh my God.
There are several dangerous descent routes with...
See, that's not even skiing, dude. If you're going on a trip and you and your buddies are like, oh yeah, you know, we're expert skiers, why don't we pick it up a notch? Let's just jump off the side of a mountain and try and not die. Dude, you're falling. This is not skiing. This is almost, you wouldn't be able to stand. That's not, if I'm not able to stand up if I fell, that's not skiing. You're falling to your death if you don't fucking, cut the snow right.
Dangerous descent routes with nearly vertical sections, forested areas, rocks,
it's
and
calculated skydiving.
Glacier crevices. And one of those crevices was encountered by a 36-year-old skier from Les Pautos. For some reason, he decided to ascend the slope earlier than the rest of the team and make a solo descent. However, as he sped down the slope, he saw a spot...
Oh my God, this is real footage?
...where the snow had collapsed into a small pit ahead. He tried to swerve to avoid it, but it was too late. The snow on the slope shifted, knocking him off his feet, and within seconds, he found himself in open space, plummeting into a deep...
Oh, hell no! Yo, he just fucking fell down. Yo, the second I fell...
to avoid it, but it was too...
If I fell down this...
late.
I'm in my head, I'm going, okay, maybe I'll be fine. Maybe I'll be fine.
Snow on the slope shifted.
Maybe I'll be fine. And then I see this fat-ass ice crevice that I'm sliding down like I'm at a goddamn water park.
Off his feet, and within seconds, he found himself in open space, plummeting into a deep, icy crevice. He slid
no way he was just standing there like that.
Deeper into the crevice until his skis got stuck, miraculously stopping his fall.
I'd jump in. Unless I got a radio on me, dude, you're dead. You're dead. I'm just accepting that shit, dude. I'd be like, well, this isn't Minecraft. I don't have any dirt blocks. I don't think I'm going to be able to build my way back up.
He was 15 meters deep in a narrow ice fissure, at risk of falling even deeper at any moment.
I'm not jumping off. What are you doing? How long until you accept the fact that you're dead? If you're in this guy's situation, 2 hours. If no one finds me or says anything for 2 hours, I'm immediately going, I'm dead. Right? I am going to die here.
Miraculously stopping his fall. He was 15 meters deep in a narrow ice fissure, at risk of falling even deeper.
Wow, that is horrifying.
At any moment. And there was no one to help him. The rest of Les Pautos hadn't even reached the summit yet.
Dude, that is literally just a straight drop.
For over 20 minutes, the skier clung to the icy walls with ice axes and crampons, trying to save himself. Miraculously,
he changed his clothes. He fucking took off his skis and got out ice climbing gear and put it on while he was just standing there.
He wasn't injured, and his teammates eventually found and rescued him. Glacier crevices can be as deep as 45 meters, and there might be no visible signs of such a chasm on the surface. The fact that a member of the French team survived and made it out unscathed after such a shocking fall is incredible luck. While you can expect potential danger from extreme skiing, The incident involving a resident of Gonzales Catan was completely unexpected. At the end of March 2022, a woman named Candela was waiting for a train when she suddenly felt herself losing consciousness. What happened next?
Wow, that is horrible RNG. That is actually horrible RNG. To be losing consciousness 15 feet away from a train and you just begin running that way to stabilize yourself.
Felt herself losing consciousness. What happened next was a nightmare. She couldn't keep her balance and fell, her head landing right between two moving train cars.
Woo!
Her body then turned parallel to the platform and slipped into a narrow gap. The onlookers at the subway station were horrified. They believed they had witnessed the tragic death of a young woman. But when the train stopped and the
No way she just fell on like a part that caught her.
passengers rushed to find Candela under the carriages, they unexpectedly pulled her out alive. She regained consciousness and seemed to move quite calmly.
That's good ass RNG, chat.
When Candela was taken to the hospital, it turned out she had only minor scratches. She didn't remember the horrific incident. She felt herself
Not remembering that.
blacking out, tried to warn the person next to her, and came to as one of those who managed to cheat death. Unfortunately, not everyone is so lucky. One day in March 2023, workers at a candy factory in West Reading, Pennsylvania,
Oh my
smelled
god, don't tell me he falls into like a vat.
gas amidst the aroma of chocolate. They reported it to their supervisor, but he said only higher-ups could declare an evacuation. So, everyone went back to work. Less than 30 minutes later, there was an explosion.
Why? They actually have footage of all of this shit?
There was an explosion. Tons of debris, smoke, and flames shot into the air, all that was left of one of the factory buildings. The blast was so powerful that a neighboring building shifted by 120 centimeters. The destruction...
The whole building moved?
20 centimeters.
Okay, what the fuck? I thought buildings were like hunkered to the ground. You're telling me the entire building, like a skyscraper-esque, like a fucking 10-story building, moved 4 feet? Like it pushed it?
The destruction damaged nearby gas lines, fueling the fire even more. Just seconds before the explosion, factory worker Patricia Borges was going down the stairs. Suddenly, everything shook, and she lost her footing. She noticed her arm was on fire just before the floor crumbled like a toy, and Patricia fell into a vat of molten chocolate in the basement.
This sounds fake. This sounds like the fact that a human consciousness had to experience this. Dude, I feel like this is some Charlie and the Chocolate Factory X Marvel shit. Fell into a fucking vat of molten chocolate. And when their candy factory explodes and they live.
The chocolate softened her fall and extinguished the fire, saving her life. Meanwhile,
That didn't give her fucking third-degree burns?
injured workers lay around the destroyed factory, lucky to have escaped the rubble. When rescuers arrived, Patricia heard their voices and cried out for help. Still, hours passed and no one came to her rescue. Bodies were being pulled from the wreckage. Initially, 2 deaths were reported, but it was later revealed that 7 people had lost their lives in the explosion. The next day, rescue dogs signaled that a human body was nearby. However, no one expected what happened next. The brief silence was broken by a muffled cry from beneath the rubble. An exhausted Patricia regained consciousness as the vat she was stuck in started filling with water from the firefighters' hoses. After surviving the explosion, the fire, and half a day under the debris, she was about to drown. Luckily, she was saved just in time. Doctors found bruises, burns, a broken collarbone, and fractures in both heels.
I'm surprised she's not more damaged. Like that could have been way worse than what she endured.
Phineas Gage, on the other hand,
Oh, I remember this guy. I know this guy. This is like the most famous story. He's either the one that shot himself and lived. I think he had a metal pole that went through his head, though.
had no chance of surviving. He should have passed away, but instead, he made history with the shocking injury he sustained. The story happened in
We study him in psychology? Yeah, schools talk about him.
1848, yet scientists worldwide still study it today. On September 13th, 25-year-old construction worker Phineas was laying railroad tracks in Cavendish, Vermont. He was tamping down explosives into drilled rock holes with a special metal rod. During one of the setups, something went wrong. The explosives detonated prematurely, and the tamping iron rod was driven through Gage's head. This 6-kilogram rod, over 3 centimeters.
How did he live? Like, that went through his head diagonally. Like, that wasn't some shit where it, like, went through, like, a little back piece of his skull. Like, that is just somebody grabbing a fucking spear and just stabbing that through, literally, directly through your head. And he lives.
Meters in diameter and 110 centimeters long, went through his left cheek behind his
13-pound metal rod gets jabbed through your fucking brain, and you just wake up the next day. Imagine he didn't pass out. Holy shit. Imagine that happens to you, and he just goes, holy fuck, dude, that was like a bad blast. My head feels heavy as shit. He looks over at his friend, and his friend's just going, just like speechless.
His eye, pierced his brain, and exited his skull. However, like in a horror movie, Gage stood up and started talking to his
What? No! What? Oh my god! He fought. Yo, if I was one of his fucking friends, I would be like, I'd tell him to stop talking. I'd be like, dude, don't move. Literally don't. How are you alive right now?
co-workers. They were shocked by the sight, but
How'd they remove it?
quickly rushed him to the hospital. There,
Imagine one of his friends goes, we need to get it out. Get on your knees. And just gets on his shoulders and just rips it out like it's one of those, like, sword things at an amusement park to prove that you're worthy. You're standing on your friend's shoulders, you just rip out a fucking 6-foot metal rod.
he horrified the townspeople by chatting with them, despite the hole in his head. He greeted the doctor with, "Here's
It's the Excalibur.
business enough for you." A few days later,
What did the doctor do? I don't care. This is number one, this is the 1800s, so I know damn well this guy had no idea what the fuck to do. But honestly, for a situation like that, I feel like having a doctor from the 1800s might not be that bad. Because that's just like, well, let's pull it out. And he's sitting there and he's looking at you. He's like, well, all right.
Gage developed a brain infection, and his slim chances of survival dropped to 0. Still, to the amazement of even modern specialists, he recovered, losing his left eye, yet remaining fully functional. However, his personality changed drastically.
I was going to say, his personality had to have changed.
The once polite Phineas became rude, impolite, and brash. Nevertheless, he lived another 12 years, and his case spread.
I mean, is that from the brain injury or you getting a metal rod shoved through your head? Probably both, but I'm also thinking, no matter how happy-go-lucky a person is, if you get a fucking 6-foot metal rod shoved through your head, you might be a little angry for the next few years.
Spurred the development of the now critical field of neurology. The rod and his skull are still preserved in a museum. Other heroes in this video managed to etch their names in history while still alive. On March 12, 2006, over a dozen tornadoes formed above the Ozark
I wonder what his brain looked like. Like, was there just a massive hole in his brain?
Plateau in Missouri. Residents were urged to take shelter, but 19-year-old Matt Suter, his grandmother, and his uncle continued watching TV in their mobile home. Meanwhile, one of the tornadoes accelerated to 217 kilometers per hour.
Is that even a tornado? 65-mile-an-hour winds? I feel like that would be like classified as something else. That seems low. Like, whenever I think of a tornado, I'm thinking of like some fucking quick shit. That's not a small gust of wind now. 65-mile-an-hour winds is fucking terrifying, but like I wouldn't think that's a fucking enough to be like a tornado. It would be a twister. Dude, 200-mile-an-hour winds.
Considerable damage. When the tornado approached the Suters' trailer, they had no chance. Matt heard a wild roar, like 10 jet fighters coming at them. Then, the tornado came into view, bombarding their mobile home with debris picked up along the way. The absolute nightmare began seconds later. The powerful force ripped the trailer door off, tore away the roof, and then demolished the home entirely.
They were standing outside of the fucking... Actually, probably standing outside of the trailer might be smart here.
The vortex sucked up the trailer's debris and belongings, and suddenly, it pulled in Matt. He screamed, felt a blow, and
No way he felt himself levitating.
everything went dark. The tornado's debris pile buried Matt's grandmother and uncle, but they survived with minor injuries. They saw Matt get sucked into the vortex, so fearing the worst, they went searching for his body. Meanwhile,
Bro said I'd tweak. You'd pass out.
Matt's suitor regained consciousness in the middle of a field, disoriented, but unharmed. The only injury he sustained was a bump on the head from a lamp in the trailer. Running to his friend's house for help, Matt didn't yet know that his relatives had survived and that he had set a world record. It turned out that Suter entered the Guinness Book of World Records as the person—
Oh my god, as the longest person that's ever been carried, like the longest tornado carry with while being alive. I'm guessing like 100 yards.
and survived. Matt still holds the record at 398 meters.
What? A quarter mile? It carried him a quarter mile?
Getting caught in the heart of a tornado and living to tell the tale is nothing short of a miracle. In 1925, the deadliest tornado year
Yeah,
in
how did he not die? Like, if it's picking you up, shit is surely fucking slapping into you.
U.S. history, tornadoes claimed the lives of 794 people. So, Matt Suter definitely fooled death itself. 31-year-old Casey Wagner, on the other hand, tricked death twice. At the end of October 2013, he attended a popular off-road race in St. Joe, Texas. However, the event was interrupted by a severe thunderstorm, and Casey took shelter under a small tree. Suddenly, the very thing his mother had warned him about since childhood happened.
Getting struck by lightning? I always told him, Casey Wagner, don't be holding metal bats into the air all the time. I know it's fun, right? But it's not that safe.
Casey saw sparks flying from the tree trunk. Then, a powerful flash blinded him.
You're supposed to stay away from trees. Even like a big ass. If there was a thunderstorm, I would go next to a tree. I know the tree's most likely to get struck because it's the highest object is usually what it hits. That's why when they have like those little metal pieces for lightning to hit, it's always at the highest point of the building. I didn't think that would then trickle down and get you.
And an unseen force knocked him to the ground. He realized he had been struck by lightning, yet before he hit the ground, a second bolt struck him.
Wow.
Wagner felt the electricity surge through him, and it felt like his thumb was being ripped off. He was convinced he was dying and cried out for help with his last ounce of strength. A nurse who was on duty at the race rushed to his side and stayed with him until the ambulance.
Yo, imagine you're just standing there during a lightning storm under like a canopy, and you see a guy get struck by lightning, and he tries to get up, and he's like, "Somebody help!" Bang, and it strikes him again, right? And then he kind of like half stands, and then it strikes him again, right? And then he's on his knees, and he's like, "Somebody!" and he gets struck again. I would not help him. I would immediately go. I'm not even somebody that's religious. We already all know that. We talked about this a million times. I would immediately go, God wants that guy to die. I would say, God is killing that person.
Arrived. To the doctor's surprise, Casey Wagner was practically unharmed. Despite the electricity traveling through his body from his right leg to his left arm, he only suffered muscle pain, shortness of breath, tremors, and tingling in his limbs. This case is truly astonishing. First, the odds of being struck by lightning in the U.S. in a given year are about 1 in 750,000.
Higher than I thought they'd be. I must say that. Higher. Now, I know that's a low number. Higher than I thought they'd be. That means out of 750,000 people, somebody's getting struck by lightning.
Yet Casey got hit twice in a row. Second, the average lightning bolt carries around 300 million volts, while a standard outlet has a maximum of 240 volts. Each year, 400 people worldwide get electrocuted at home, and half of them lose their lives. So, what are the chances of surviving a double lightning strike? I'd say about the same as surviving a fall from nearly a kilometer high. On January 25th,
Oh my God, this was the plane one.
Joe and Mackenzie Wethington arrived in Chickasha, Oklahoma. This was a special day for them because Mackenzie was celebrating her 16th birthday, and her dad had arranged to fulfill her wildest dream. Apparently, that Joe and Mackenzie had learned all the safety rules where they cleared for the jump. Excited and a bit nervous,
Oh my God, does she jump out of the plane without a parachute?
Joe and Mackenzie took a selfie and then boarded the plane. Joe jumped first so he could watch his daughter make her dream come true. When Joe was already on the ground, the plane reached just over 900 meters, and Mackenzie jumped. However, Joe's joy quickly turned to horror as he saw something was wrong. Mackenzie's parachute opened, but then spiraled out of control. Her descent sped up, and Joe could only watch helplessly as his daughter plummeted toward the ground. Medical personnel rushed to Mackenzie and were astonished to find that she was still breathing. She was rushed to the hospital, where they discovered multiple broken ribs, a fractured shoulder blade, a lumbar spine fracture, a pelvic fracture, and severe liver damage. The doctor's prognosis was grim. They didn't expect her to survive. However, Mackenzie became a medical miracle, not only surviving, but also bravely undergoing rehabilitation. She became a local—
Dude, that's fucking horrible. I bet your fucking birthday, you go skydiving, and your parachute opens sideways, and you got about, I don't know, a minute descent, just plummeting, and you're going, well, I'm gonna fucking die.
Hero, inspiring people with her incredible story. If you think it couldn't get more unbelievable, let me tell you about the story of a flight attendant, Vesna Volovich, mentioned at the very beginning of this video. In 1972, Vesna Volovich worked for Yugoslavia's national airline. On January 26th, Flight 367 took off from Stockholm to Belgrade, now the capital of Serbia. During a stopover, a backup crew, including Vesna, boarded the plane. Due to an airline error, she was on this flight instead of her scheduled one. So, Flight 367, with Volovich on board, took off from Denmark, but never reached its next stop. 46 minutes after takeoff, the plane exploded over what was then Czechoslovakia. 27 passengers and crew were ejected from the cabin at an altitude of 10,000 meters, almost instantly perishing from lack of oxygen and temperatures plunging to minus 50 degrees Celsius. However, Vesna Volovich was pinned by a food cart in the tail section of the fuselage, which plummeted to the ground at breakneck speed. What happened next seems utterly—
How did she not die? I'm assuming she's the only person that survives this. But you're falling from 30,000 feet. Like, unless you're falling into, like, flubber or some shit, that fucking Robert Williams video or Rob Williams video or whatever it is. What the fuck? You're going too quick. Whatever cushions your fall is not helping you out.
Unreal. The piece of the plane with Vesna crashed into a forested area where the trees helped slow the fall. Deep snow further
slow the fall.
And the fuselage landed at an angle that left Vesna—
I know damn well the dickhead that saw that shit fall, if there was somebody there in their cabin. I think that pine tree actually might have helped somebody out there. I think somebody might have survived. I don't know. Looked like it descended a little bit slower in that last 30 feet.
On the surface, the plane was reduced to wreckage, and among the debris, a local villager found Vesna alive. And that's not all. The villager was a former army medic who provided her with critical first aid. Had any detail been different, Vesna likely would not have survived. Indeed, her condition was dire. Volovich had a fractured skull, several broken ribs, 3 broken vertebrae, a broken pelvis, and both legs were shattered. She was paralyzed from the waist down and spent the next 27 days in a coma. Yet, against all odds, she regained consciousness. After 16 months in the hospital and extensive rehabilitation, she could walk again. Vesna became a global sensation, earning a place in the Guinness World Records for the highest fall survived without a parachute. It's worth noting that the explosion on Flight 367 was caused by a—
Should they be handing out records for that? Like, obviously no one's really going to recreate it, but like, then people are going to be like motivated to try and do it, where it's like, oh, I could beat that. Let me go jump out of a fucking jet.
A bomb. So Vesna Volovich also survived a terrorist attack.
Dude, that's also like fucking horrible that everyone else died. Like, knowing you're the only person that lived that plane ride. It's good that she was a flight attendant. Like, you know how bad that would be if you were a passenger? I mean, obviously you want more people to live, but if one person lives, the flight attendant that has no family members is probably the best. Like, imagine you go on a fucking family vacation with 4 people that are your close family members, and everybody on the plane dies, including everybody that you know.
Encountering such situations is extraordinarily rare, but surviving them is a true miracle.
Wow. Dude, that was a great fucking video. I really loved that video. And I know that was like an AI commentator. I don't give a shit. That was amazing.